Listen closely to that sound. That is the architect's clock. That is the sound of time running out. For weeks, we told ourselves the horror was contained to the Blackwood house. That the blood spilled a century ago was finite, a tragic footnote in history. We were wrong. We were terribly, dangerously wrong. We were simply standing in the waiting room of a much, much larger machine. You joined us because we chose to follow the trail. Because we chose to believe the final, shattered GPS ping on Clara Davies' phone, the pin that landed not in a remote forest, but here, at the abandoned Willow Creek train depot. This entire complex is a mechanism of deception. It looks like decay, but it operates with cold, flawless precision. What we found inside the station proves that Alastair Finch did not just build a trap for ghosts. He built an operational network spanning decades and dozens of miles. He didn't just vanish in 1927, he activated his system and began controlling it remotely. The Blackwood house was nothing more than a small, isolated battery. This depot is the central wiring hub, and we walked right into the middle of the circuit. The Willow Creek depot closed permanently in 1935. Officially, it was an economic failure. Unofficially, it became the perfect cloak for Finch's movement. He designed this place for absolute, engineered efficiency. Note the platforms. They are cast in concrete several feet thicker than local building codes require. They weren't built to bear the weight of trains. They were built to dampen sound. We tracked the financial records, finding massive, undocumented steel and concrete shipments delivered here in the 1960s and 1980s. A ghost building doesn't require a constant supply chain, but an active, continuously expanding machine does. This tells us the architect has been alive and working for nearly a century, operating under a veil of total silence. Our mission, based on the final data recovered from the house, is singular. We must access the central control point of this network, the place where Finch stored his records. We are looking for proof that the families who vanished from this platform, the 5 separate groups documented between 1930 and 1935, were moved by rail, not simply lost. And if they were moved, where did the track finally end? We didn't have to look far for the entry point. The drainage system on Track 3, the track with the highest recorded disappearances, was sealed off by a plate of iron too thick to lift. But our ground-penetrating radar confirmed a deep, complex tunnel system underneath. And here, in the cold, thick dust near the grate, we found something unsettling: fresh marks. Clear drag marks leading directly toward the sealed iron plate, left not days ago, but perhaps hours ago. This tells us 2 things with chilling certainty. Finch's system is currently operational, and he has likely been here, or sent a representative, to perform maintenance or perhaps prepare a new space. We are going in to find his conductor's logs, the history of his operations. And we promise you this: by the time we exit this depot, we will not only have the address for his final, terrifying construction site, the gathering point, we will have proof that the architect is on his way there right now. You are watching the opening minutes of a relentless pursuit. The iron plate alone weighed nearly 1,000 pounds. It was sealed not by rust, but by a specialized, chemically treated adhesive, a method used in high-security vaults. Finch didn't want this shaft lost. He wanted it hidden in plain sight. We've dropped into the maintenance tunnel beneath Track 3. The air here is instantly colder, thick with a medicinal scent that cuts through the typical decay. This is not natural. We immediately noticed that the tunnel walls are lined with a thick, sound-dampening insulation, identical to the material used in the Blackwood house's inner walls. This space wasn't built for mechanics. It was built for transport and containment. The architect wasn't interested in making a beautiful home. He was obsessed with creating perfect, isolated environments to run his experiments. The official police reports claimed the vanished families, the 5 groups between 1930 and 1935, simply abandoned their luggage and left the premises. It was the easy answer. But when we accessed the depot's digitized cargo manifests, we found the true horror. On the days each of those families disappeared, one single, custom-built railcar was loaded onto this track. It was labeled Experimental Containment Unit, Fragile. That railcar wasn't carrying freight. It was carrying the materials of the trap. And the passengers, the 5 vanishing families, were, we believe, used to calibrate the Architect system. They weren't missing. They were processed. The train station wasn't a stop for travelers. It was a factory for his work. The sheer volume of this operation confirms the scale of Finch's delusion. He wasn't just building a haunted house, he was building a system of horrors across the region. The tunnel ends here, at a secondary platform designed to handle the transfer of that experimental containment unit. And there it is, a secure lockbox. It's a modern, electronic safe, installed far too recently to be part of the 1935 structure. Finch has been here, or someone working for him. This safe contains the operational manual for the entire network. As we set up the decryption tools, we feel a shift in the air pressure, a cold draft where there should be none. The silence, which had been unnerving, becomes total. It's a silence that is actively listening. That's the rail shunt, the system that moves the tracks. It's engaged. It shouldn't have any power. We are not alone here. The Architect's entity, the thing that operates the Blackwood House timer, it followed us. It is still protecting the evidence. We have to crack this box before that thing, or whoever is controlling it, locks it down completely. The lockbox yielded its secret, a complete set of conductor's logs, dating from the depot's closure in 1935 right up to the late 1980s. These weren't travel records. They were operational reports, filled with Alastair Finch's obsessive, precise handwriting. He wasn't tracking passenger loads, he was tracking materials and delivery times. When we cross-referenced the entries with the Blackwood House's timer cycle, the pattern became chillingly clear. Every time the Blackwood House completed its feeding cycle, the period ending with the victim's disappearance, a specialized rail car, marked only as Unit 401, was routed through this depot. The families who vanished from this platform were not random victims. They were expendable labor, used to move the immense tonnage of steel, custom concrete, and industrial parts needed for his final construction. Finch didn't just abandon his house. He used it as a beacon, drawing in curious subjects, while using the silent rail lines to build his ultimate design, piece by painstaking piece, across the entire region. The logs confirm his physical presence here was infrequent, but his gaze was constant. Hidden inside a hollow support beam, powered by an unseen ancient generator, we found the nerve center of his remote monitoring system. A tiny, 1930s-era CCTV unit, pointed directly at the safe we just opened. He rigged this depot to alert him whenever the evidence was disturbed. We managed to access the unit's stored images, a sequence of still frames from the moment we breached the safe. It's proof that Finch has been watching our every move. But the final image in the sequence wasn't of us. It was a digital photo inserted into the monitor's memory, a high-resolution portrait of a young Alastair Finch, circa 1928, standing precisely where we are. The terror is that he looks directly into the lens. He is smiling, utterly calm, holding a roll of paper. It's a deliberate provocation. It's his way of saying, "I know you're here. I anticipated you." The logs and the antique key we found in the safe lead us to the final piece of the depot puzzle, Unit 401. The containment car that moved Finch supplies for decades. It sits on a section of track that hasn't been used since 1950. We use a powerful reciprocating saw to cut the final lock. The sound of the steel grinding is deafening, violating the silence of the depot. The door opens to reveal the car is not a simple container. It's a sterile, temporary control room. Files, maps, and blueprints are pinned to the steel walls. The key finding: detailed schematic drawings for multiple, smaller Blackwood houses across 3 neighboring counties. Finch didn't just build one trap, he created a regional web of containment units. We're sealed in. He's here. The architect has sealed us inside his storage unit. He sealed us in. That was not a supernatural force outside. It was a physical actuator, controlled by the depot's long-dormant pneumatic system, activated by the removal of his logs. We were trapped in a steel vault designed for transport, not escape. The air was gone within minutes, replaced by the choking dust of decades. We fought the door with every tool we had, the knowledge that Finch was out there, watching us panic, fueling our desperation. We burst out of the cargo car, gasping for breath, the realization hitting us immediately. We were not dealing with a long-dead obsession. We were dealing with a living, methodical mind. And he left his final message pinned to the interior wall of the car, right where he knew we would find it. It was a massive, rolled-up schematic, clearly not for a house or a station. We unrolled it, and the scale of his design made the Blackwood house look like a child's toy. The document was titled, The Gathering Point, Phase 7 Construction. It depicted a vast, multi-level underground bunker, a system designed not for 4 people, but for hundreds, complete with isolated sound-dampened living units, complex ventilation, and massive, custom-built industrial components. This wasn't an isolated experiment. This was the final assembly point for a horrifying, regional community. The relief of escape was instantly replaced by terror. The moment we touched the final blueprint, we heard the sound of an engine. Not a phantom noise, but a heavy, purposeful vehicle approaching the depot at high speed. The architect, or his proxy, was returning to the scene to clean up his mistake. We piled into our vehicle, driving hard down the desolate service road. We thought we had escaped his immediate gaze. But as we put distance between ourselves and the depot, our lead technician noticed a small, antique object resting on the passenger seat, a position it was absolutely not in 5 minutes ago. It was a music box, crafted from dark, polished wood, utterly untouched by the decades of dust. A gift. When we opened the lid, it began to play a slow, simple, unnerving melody, a tune that sounded like a child's nursery rhyme, played slightly off-key. The music box was the distraction. The message was the trap. He placed the music box to confirm he could touch our vehicle, and he sent the message to confirm he has control of our communications. We didn't solve a mystery. We became the final participants in his experiment. We are no longer researchers. We are the architects of our own fate, driven by a personal invitation from a monster who has been alive and operational for 97 years. We have the proof. The Blackwood house was the ignition. The Willow Creek depot was the supply chain. And now, we hold the terrifying blueprint for the gathering point, a facility designed to house the final phase of his work. He has exposed himself. He has issued a challenge. He knows where we are, and he is waiting. We have 2 hours before the coordinates he sent expire. We can delete the evidence, alert the authorities who will never believe us, and spend the rest of our lives looking over our shoulders. Or, we can follow the music box's melody and confront the architect at his ultimate machine. The decision is now entirely out of our hands, and entirely in yours. The next video begins at those coordinates. Comment below now. Do we pursue the architect to the gathering point and expose his nightmare once and for all, or do we walk away and let him continue his work in the shadows? Subscribe and hit that bell, because this is where the investigation ends, and the final confrontation begins.